I'm very cautious about time, as our Honourable Member of Parliament, David, needs to go somewhere else as he has another commitment. So without any delay, now I would request the Right Honourable David Ward to say a few words.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, I can't pretend to. It is a family event. I would like to say I've got a really crucially important meeting which I've got to go and address, but I'm not. It's a family event. In fact, when Marge came to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was at the back there and said, would I attend this event? I said, yeah, of course I would. I was obviously very keen to. So I said, oh, it's not on Sunday, is it? Sunday afternoon? And he said, yes, of course it's Sunday. Sunday's the best day. I said, well, it's the only day I see my family, and although I am passionately committed to the Kashmiri cause, I really am just not ready to be divorced yet. So please forgive me if I disappear. Not yet, anyway. The importance of being here, first of all. Yet another meeting, speeches are made, have something to eat, we all go home, and you may feel that of no real long-term, you may feel some frustration. It is important, please believe me. The message that this is sending out, really, across this country, but of course to Kashmir, is very, very important that on this day people are remembering, people are talking about it many, many miles away, that it's not a forgotten cause. It's also very important in a very crowded and busy world to keep banging the drum on a particular issue. I don't know if you've been to Parliament, you maybe think, some of you, if you haven't been there, that what we do is just go down there and then we have some debates in the House of Commons chamber and then we come back. Well, in fact, that's a very, very small part of what goes on in Westminster. MPs are lobbied intensely, day in, day out, by groups, organisations, businesses. And so they are constantly being put under pressure. So you need to be one of those groups that's applying that pressure. It was briefly mentioned that there is a parliamentary group. There's a parliamentary group on nearly everything you can possibly think about. They're called all-party parliamentary groups, and as the name suggests, they are quite influential because they bring together members from all the different parties. So usually it's because they have an interest in that area, a concern about that area, but because it's all-party, it carries a lot of weight. They have a right for a minister to attend those at least once a year so they can directly talk to the minister about the issues, and there literally there are hundreds of these. There's one for every single sport you can think of. There's every country in the world, so Bolivia, Mongolia, all of them will have their own all-party parliamentary groups. There's one for every type of industry and business. There's one for trade unions, all the trade unions, for all the different charities, for all the different health ailments, whether it's heart or cancer and so on. And there is one for Kashmir. It's not very well used, I have to say that. It is one that's quite well attended by members of Parliament. You will get 10, 15, sometimes members of Parliament who have strong Kashmiri communities who attend. But it is not really an effective force, I have to tell you that. So you need to really maybe learn more about that group, how it operates and how you can put more pressure and indeed generate more ideas for what that group could possibly do. It is a useful tool, something that is freely available, but it needs to be more effectively utilised. I've already been to Kashmir, and many of you will know that. I haven't been to the Indian side, so possibly through the APPG, Kashmir Group, I hope to be visiting in the next year or so to see for myself that side. But it does, again, because it's an all-party group, it doesn't mean that members of Parliament from all the political parties will go on a journey like that, and it gives an opportunity for us to campaign across party lines. Now, today, the history is completely, as we know, littered with examples of terrorists who later become known as freedom fighters, and it's a very thin line at times. But what separates the two? What really determines whether someone goes down in his history as an international terrorist, or whether they are seen as to be a freedom fighter? And the answer is the justness of the cause. Whether or not the international community eventually understands the issues and recognises that those who were campaigning and fighting for the cause were doing so for a just cause, whether it's India, and to make sure that the country was free from the yoke of the British colonial power, or indeed Ireland or South Africa. In each case, many, whether it was Gandhi, whether it was Mandela, all became eventually recognised on an international stage because of the justness of the cause. And this is really what we need to do in terms of the life that was given and taken by Maqbool, but we need to change the perception of the issue before we can actually change the perception of the individual himself. The terrible, terrible tragedy in the case of Kashmir, of course, is that the justness of the cause on the international stage has been recognised for over 60 years. You know, this isn't something where there is a disagreement on the international stage through the United Nations. There is a common acceptance in the form of United Nations resolutions on what the outcome should be. So the great tragedy really is that there really should have been no need for Maqbool Butt. He should not have been. Long before he was forced through the conditions he found, the suppression and the lack of justice, long before all of those things drove him down a particular road, the issue of Kashmir should have been resolved. Long before. And we should actually have never ever heard of him. He should, as an intelligent and educated man, should have just gone about his life as a journalist peacefully, and we would never ever have heard of him. And in that sense, he was actually as much a victim as anybody else. He was a victim of the failure of the international community to do the job it should have done many years before. And so today really is, yes, it is about the life that was lost, but it is also about all those other lives that are lost, people who are prepared to die for a just cause. And we need to remember them as well. But the other issue is about why. Why is it that it has taken so long? We've heard some of the possible reasons in terms of the strategic importance. We've heard about the issue of water, and we all know about that. But also there's a blindness, a scotoma as it's often called, a blank spot in the eyes of the West towards the Kashmir issue. I think far too many people in the West just regard it as being something that you just need to sort out. You're all just as bad as one another. I really do believe it's along those lines. The issues themselves are simply not understood. And so it is about educating the West and the powers that be of the issues and in the terrible injustices that are being caused in terms of human rights on a day-by-day basis. And how do we do that? Well, I'll finish with one thing, because I mentioned how MPs are intensely pressurised and lobbied. You need to do that and raise the issue amongst all the many other issues, not only to MPs but to the public at large. Now there is an opportunity in 5 or 6 months to raise the issue of Kashmir, because we're going to have the Olympics. And the Olympics are going to result in the spotlight of the whole world being on this country. And you will have India and Pakistan. They will be at the Olympics, and they will be performing various sports possibly all over the country. I see, I'm not of course talking about any attempt to disrupt or to stop anything taking place. But Kashmiris need to be present wherever India and Pakistan are. There needs to be placards, there needs to be a presence there, peaceful but loud, to show people that this is an issue that is not going to go away and needs to be more widely known on an international stage. And I shall certainly, if I'm available and you make the placards, I'm not very good at making placards, you make the placards and I will be there to hold the placards with you. Let's raise this issue on the international stage with the TV cameras there. The Chinese did not allow it, and I am proud to say that this is a country that will allow it, providing it's peaceful. Let us see that as an opportunity. The freedom to protest is a very important part of this society, and we have a right to use that freedom to raise the issue on behalf of Kashmiri people. And the very last thing is that many of you will not have my office across in Undercliff on Killinghall Road, and we also need to raise this issue internationally and indeed in Europe, and we are at the moment in the process of sorting our office out so that we can have a base there, an office there for one of our Euro MPs, Edward Macmillan Scott, who actually has got a very good, strong record on international affairs. So he will have a base. He will not be there every day, of course, but he will have a base there and will be occasionally holding surgeries there. And please use that as an opportunity to visit him when he is there and to lobby him and to make sure not only that I am doing things in Parliament, in our own House of Commons, but he is also lobbied on your behalf in the European Parliament. So that will happen in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be advertising those surgeries for the Euro MP. Please use that and lobby him as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I say something today? You can pass my message to Parliament, please, if you don't mind. I am British Kashmiri from Birmingham. I'm a businessman, but what it is, last year, 2011, I have done an announcement. This year, 12th of June 2012, I am going to do a hunger strike for Maqbool because they have hanged him and his body is still in the jail. So can you please pass my message to I'm a British Kashmiri, British citizen. So, if anything happened to my life, it will be British, India, Pakistan and United Nations will be responsible for that. Can you pass them my message today?
I will indeed. Do you know who your MP is? Member of Parliament?
Well, I have told them, but I'm telling you, I don't know if they have told in Parliament House or not. I don't know about that. I did told them. They were up there.
That's it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it. हम इंतहाई मशहूर हैं डेविड पोर्ट के